Hey, welcome back to Ease into Perfect Eating, where dieting is dumb, moderation is key, and learning to eat some of the pizza without eating all of the pizza has taken the place of the all or nothing mindset. I'm your host, Jacqueline. Today's question, it sounds like it's a meals question, but it is actually a mindset question. And the question is, how to actually stop feeling food guilt. How do how do I stop that? I feel food guilt every time I eat. This is big. I see this a lot on social media, like, oh, just don't feel guilty. No food guilt. No more dieting. Everything's fine. And the truth of the matter is that if you have felt guilty about the foods that you're eating, if that's been your relationship with food for the last year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, if you've always had this tricky relationship with food, just because you're not on a diet doesn't mean that that goes away. There's a lot of unlearning and relearning that actually has to happen. And I learned this the hard way. I thought, oh, I'm not doing Whole30 anymore. I don't have this list of good and bad foods. Now I just know how to eat magically. And that's not true at all. What happened was I stopped doing Whole30. I went overboard, felt disgusting, and was like, you need to figure this out. You need to figure this out so that that does not keep happening. So, how to actually stop food guilt, how to actually develop a good relationship with food. So the first thing that we need to do, and I highly, highly suggest getting a notebook out and writing this stuff down. If you're driving, if you're multitasking, you can save this for later and maybe come back to it. But the first thing you want to do is you actually want to write down, what does guilt mean to you? So we throw these words around a lot, but it's like, let's take a second to actually define what the heck this means and also what it means personal to us. So there's like a dictionary definition, but then it's like, well, what does this look like in my life? How is this showing up? So food guilt, a lot of us, we feel guilty. We feel like I did something bad. I love that definition. It's so clear. That's from Brene Brown. Guilt is I did something bad, right? I ate this thing and I wasn't supposed to do that. I did something bad. We'll see this a lot if you are used to a list of foods that Whole30 or Bright Line Eating or no carb keto they gave you, and you eat a carb, you eat something that was on that bad list. You feel guilt. You feel like, shoot, I did something bad. So the first thing you want to do is you want to write out, what are the things that you do that make you feel guilty? What are those things that you do that make food guilt more pronounced in your life? Okay. The other thing you want to do is dig a little bit deeper. Really get into that mindset, that headspace. What's your inner chatter? What are the things that you say to yourself when you feel food guilt? What does it feel like during that time that you feel food guilt? What are you saying before that happens? What are you saying after that happens? Something I noticed in my relationship with food, and when I talk to clients, that they start eating something and that all or nothing mindset keeps coming up, even though we said we're not doing a diet anymore, that all or nothing mindset is still there. So they eat like a piece of bread, and then there's the, shoot, I did something bad, I'm going to continue eating the bread. So we want to not judge it, not criticize it. We need to become more aware that it's happening before we can actually make a change. So a really, really easy thing to do is get a journal out and write down, what does food guilt look like for you? What does it sound like for you? What happens before? What happens during? What happens after? Okay, the next thing that we want to do is define values for your relationship with food. This is super important because every time you've done a diet, you've basically followed someone else's values for food. Whole30, they told you exactly what to eat. Bright Line Eating, they tell you exactly what to eat, right? They have already told you what the values are. Even in Imperfect Eating, I have my values and I share those with you without telling you that you have to do it exactly like me. And also just like, cool, like use this as a starting point, but like you have to figure this stuff out for yourself. You might have different food values than me. So what are the things that you value? For myself, I value feeling good. Like in my body, I value feeling good day to day. I want to feel energized. I want to feel happy. I want to feel satisfied. I don't want to be constantly searching for food. So those are things that I value. I also value being able to have pizza every once in a while. It's important to me. So values are things that are important to us. It's important to me to also be able to have a little creamer in my coffee, or to have a diet soda and not feel disgusting, to have some chocolate every now and then. Those are things that are important to me. So when I look at how I eat, I'm eating lots of plants, a lot of plant-based things, but I'm also allowed to have those treats. Both of those things are important to me. So that's like my food values, my relationship with food. But you need to do that for yourself. So get that journal out and define what do you value? What is important to you? This is super important because this is your life, your body, right? These videos are helpful and I'm here to be your guide, but this is like your journey with food. And that can feel really scary to like, oh shoot, like I have been told what to do my whole life, and now you're giving me this permission to pick what I want to do. That can feel really scary, but also it's so amazing. Like you get to pick what you want for your life, without someone telling you that it's wrong. So what do you value when it comes to your relationship with food? And then the last thing, okay, practice the actions and inner chatter that do align with your values. So right here, after I had finished Whole30 and I was like, cool, I'm not dieting anymore, like balance, I can eat this pizza, whatever. I had not taken the time to do this. I had not taken the time to define what my values were, what was important to me when it came to food. I just like cool, I'm just going to eat some pizza. And then I fell back on that old all or nothing mindset. So after that happened, after that mistake happened, is when I took the time to write out, and I was blogging at the time, but I wrote out online journal. I don't want to keep going down these rabbit holes of being all the way on something or being all the way off of something. I'd like to feel good in my body, and I'd like to be able to have some pizza and not feel disgusting. Be able to have some pizza without eating all of the pizza and the cookies and all that, right? Like that's my values. Because I defined what my values were, I was able to think about the actions that I needed to take in order to make that happen. If I value being able to have vegetables and also have pizza, I have to practice those actions. And then we know it's not just about the actions. It's not just about the doing. It's about the inner chatter. What's happening in my head when I'm doing these things? And that's going to help with the food guilt. So if I am eating pizza, which is a taboo, you're not supposed to be eating pizza if you're trying to be healthy. It's like against, there's dairy, there's carbs, there's ingredients that you can't eat. That is a food that is very Whole30 taboo, not allowed, because Whole30 is not what I value anymore. I value imperfect eating. I value being able to eat these things and feel good. I have to reprogram the thoughts that are happening in my head. This is like the key part that people miss out on. So if you don't do any of this stuff, make sure that you do this part. The key part to all of this is making sure that we reprogram the thoughts in our head about the actions that we're taking. Otherwise, we're still going to be like, oh, I'm so bad in eating this pizza, and then fall down that train. So as I'm eating this pizza, this sounds so silly. I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is okay. This is allowed. Jacqueline, you're allowed to be eating this pizza. Jacqueline, you're on this planet one time. You're allowed to be consuming pizza. You're allowed to enjoy this treat. You don't have to feel bad about this. You don't have to follow someone else's rules for your body. You are allowed to be doing this. And so, because you're allowed to be doing this, you also have the responsibility of how can you eat this in a way that you feel good? How can you eat this and be happy that this is a decision that you made? Be happy about eating the pizza and not feel disgusting. Because when you feel disgusting, that's when you start to feel the food guilt, because you broke that value. You went against the value. I value feeling good by my decisions with food. So I want to make sure that the actions I'm taking are going to allow me to feel good. So to recap, make sure that you take the time. You guys, it is not just about the meals. If it was just about the meals, you would be able to track calories, you would be able to track macros or follow a plan easily. It's not just about that. There's a lot more digging that we need to do. That is surface level stuff. And if you keep trying to do other surface level things, if you're like, cool, I won't do Whole30, but I'll track macros, or I won't track macros, I'll do calorie counting or whatever. It is surface level stuff. You will be jumping from surface level diet to another diet, to another diet, to another diet. You need to do the mindset work. The mindset work is tricky. It's sometimes not really that fun, but is where we will actually see long-term change and become the person that we actually want to become. So to recap, define guilt for yourself. What does it sound like? What does it look like? Define what your values are when it comes to your relationship with food. What's important to you? And the last, practice the actions and the inner chatter that aligns with your values so that you do no longer feel that food guilt. You'll have to do a lot of reframing around this. And let me know how it goes. If this is something that you're struggling with, if this is something that's a little bit tricky, know that that's completely normal. You've never done it before, but I'm also here to help you and be your guide on your journey with your relationship with food. You are the hero. I am your guide. Take care, guys.